Welcome back to the House of Legends, where great women become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela. In today's episode, Maria is back. If you remember Maria, she's an expert on hormones, fertility, and longevity. All right, Maria, welcome back. Welcome back to the house. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh yeah, I'm so ready for the second part. So ready.
Yeah, the second parts of people say second parts are not good. I'm telling you, we are making deception here because I'm just speaking huge here. It's so good. We were talking before we press record. I was sharing with Maria that at one point on my personal journey, I released 90 pounds. Back then, I was still working. Then I think it was in the 9 to 5. So I was working as a dental assistant. So it was kind of different thing story. But when it comes right here, I usually do have this kind of conversation, not daily, with some of my clients where they're building a business, they're scaling their business, but also they're know that they have to take care of themselves. If they want to have a greater business, all starts and ends with ourselves, but sometimes it gets tricky because we think or we follow onto these diets, the JoJo diet or the intermittent fasting. And I'm not saying that those are not like work for some people, but when it comes to have a when it comes to live a balance and more than balance, a life that feels right, that where our hormones are taken care of, I think there's more to do in this case.
100%. And I think your experience is from my experience with other women.
Yeah.
It's very similar, even though like obviously people lose different sorts of pounds. In your case, it was an incredible amount of weight. Congrats on that. Like I'm sure it was such a mental journey for you. But just
Wow.
like you, like it is for every woman. And I think that our relationship with nutrition and food is a
Yeah.
lot more complex than it is ever told to us.
Mm,
And I think the idea, while everything, not everything, but I think you understand what I mean with everything, almost every way of eating or diet or tool that we're given when it comes to nutrition never work for us long term, is because no one has ever taught us to apply it to the different phases. Because you can apply almost every single thing out there in the right time. So, for example, like your clients that you were saying about, they were trying fasting and it was driving them nuts, of course, because they were trying to apply it the same way every single time, the same way every single day. And
mhm.
the idea that if a person would just allow themselves to make decisions based on what they feel would be good for that day, meaning like, for example, today I can do like almost a 20-hour fast, amazing, I feel great. Then like 2 weeks later you're dying, you're like, I'm gonna kill someone, I can't stand this, like I feel so
Yeah.
weak, why does this not work for me today? Well, because you completely shifted your hormonal biochemistry, you shifted your identity, therefore this plan is not meant for you. And to piggyback on what we were talking on our last conversation, is
Yeah.
that the biggest thing that women have to take is that they are cyclical. And so a choice that is static, meaning a choice that never change, from the
Mhm.
moment that you make that choice, it will fail on you and you will continue having the issues with yourself, like the mental beliefs that you're not good enough or nothing ever works for you, or that abundance doesn't come for you, because we're always trying one thing, one regimen, one static way. And again, it works really well for men. This is
Yeah.
why we're trying this, because it works for them and we see it. There's like, I want that too. I want that too. Let me mimic it. And
Mhm.
from then on, we shoot ourselves in the foot. We're literally shooting ourselves in the foot every time. Every time I hear my boyfriend say, you know what, I'm trying this, I've seen it works really well for, my male friends, they're getting more energy. If I go and say, I'm gonna do it too, I'm gonna do it with you,
It's
I
quite-
like a month into the thing, I am already having a horrible conversation in my head about myself. And he's over there like gloating and like life is amazing. I'm like, something's wrong with me. So I want to bring this, like this comes into nutrition big time, because our relationship with our bodies are our biggest struggles from the moment that we get our periods. Like the
Yeah.
story that we are told from the moment that we get our periods, it is not of like, this is an incredible tool for you to use, is you're going to have pain, you're going to have to deal with this every month, get ready, prepare yourselves, maybe you're not going to do so well in when you go into the PE in school, maybe you're gonna have to take a couple days off. Like your mentality about everything related to you, it's just so negative, and nutrition is one of them. And I really want to change some myths here about.
Yeah, no.
Oh, can you hear me? Can
Yeah,
you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you.
Okay, perfect. I want to change some
Yeah, you're
myths
back.
here
Yeah.
around that topic.
Right. And thank you so much for making this clarification, because even for ourselves, when we enter into a meal plan or you name it, we expect to eat the same thing all day. I mean, every single day. And when we don't understand that we can actually shift things around according to our cycle, and our hormones are changing and we are not the same every single day, is when actually when we can approach our health journey or fitness journey in a different way. And I would love to ask you, Maria, one of the things that as well, and this occurs not every single time on my conversations, but as a woman, especially when we want to have kids later on, and let's say we are in our middle 30s, like 35, 34, what are the things that we must to do, or what are your suggestions when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to um um not only nutrition but exercise, but that we can combine with our cycle to keep our fertility to the top?
Okay, so again, going back to the same thing for us is the same pattern, is the same way of thinking, is what's going to keep your fertility, it's what's going to keep your cycle the healthiest. So if every month you are ovulating and your bleeding looks great and you're not having PMS or any of those issues, you know that your fertility probably is on point. And so what you have to think for fertility is like, if I work towards having a really healthy cycle, I'm sure that my ovulation and my preparation for that to stick into my uterus is amazing, and I can trust that. And so when it comes to food, I just want to say, I want to simplify it for
Yeah.
women to think about food like within a month timeline. So what happens is we tend to, in the beginning of our cycle after we bleed, we tend to want to eat, a lot lighter. And so we tend to go into the typical diet culture, which is like, oh, I'm eating fewer calories, I'm eating just protein and veggies, and I feel great and amazing, and I have energy, my business is thriving. Because again, mentally speaking, you're also very social and highly energized. So everything is going in your favor. So in those first 14 days after you bleed, to go low calorie, to just focus on proteins and veggies will work really well for you, and it will help you lose and shed the weight if that's your goal, and it will help you put on muscle. As soon as you ovulate, from that moment on, this is the mistake that we make. From that moment on, we want to stick to the low calorie protein and veggies only. Your body is requiring you to invest also in what we call complex carbohydrates, like think slow burning carbohydrates, which will be the reason why your period will be smoothly. If you don't eat complex carbohydrates like sweet potatoes or quinoa or any of those sort of complex carbs, not like croissants and like cookies, no simple carbs whatsoever. I'm talking about like the slow burning type of things closer to nature. That's what's going to make progesterone be well produced, which you really need to not have PMS and not have pain and have all of these things. And again, if you start including a little bit of complex carbs in those 2 weeks before you have your period, everything also in your business feels better, because you're not having mood swings, you're not having doubts, you're not creating stories in your mind because your emotions are going up and down. Your cravings are not distracting you from everything, like can't think until I eat everything in my in my cupboard, or I have to get another coffee because I don't have any energy. And so it can be just so simple as that. When it comes to nutrition, is like 2 weeks or like 10 days before you bleed, you have to eat more, because you are burning more calories naturally. So you will not gain weight from eating a little bit more. And a little bit more means in your plate, you will always have space for some complex carbs, whatever that is that you like, as long as it's closer to nature, not processed type of things.
Some cookies, cereal, like
Exactly.
So if we can make a little recap here, because it's so interesting. And like I said, the people that are gonna enjoy this, we're gonna release this. I don't have the date here. It's gonna be together with the other one. So it's gonna be back to back. So you have no excuse to bench on this and to take some notes, because the other one was really good as well, and this one is good as well. So we mentioned in the other podcast the 4 stages, 4 phases of the cycle. And I would love for you, if you already highlight some parts, but I would love for you, that for the woman that is listening to this, highlight the recommendations. You said that in the 14 days where we are more active, when we are even feeling more social, that we can, of course, if we don't feel that sense so much hunger, since we can go light, we can go a little bit more like veggies on and protein, right? So, but after that, when we ovulate, that means that we can add a little bit of like carbs, like sweet potatoes, oatmeal. If you can do a little recap on every single one of the phases, please.
Okay, so actually you made a good point that, for example, you can actually bring these these types of diets that people talk about, you can bring them into these different phases. For example, you see that people are getting a lot of benefits from keto. Great, you can be keto, but you can only be keto in those first 14 days. After that, you get off of keto, and now you're starting a complex carb diet, meaning like still a balanced diet, but there's carbs in there. You want to go plant-based? Great. You want to go this? Great. But you match it to the right time that your hormones are needing it. And so I think that we don't need to overcomplicate it. It's really just follicular phase, ovulatory phase are the first 14 days after you bleed. Those first 14 days are, you will feel like it's your summer and spring. You don't want to eat much. You really have like a low calorie tolerance. It's totally fine. Your body will thrive on that. You really can just use it to your benefit if that is weight loss. If you don't care about it, just you will probably want to eat that way anyway. And then the luteal phase, which are the phase right after you ovulate, those 10 days, you eat a lot of leafy green vegetables, great sources of protein. But again, you include a sweet potato, you include some rice, you include some quinoa, some millet, some all of these type of things that constitute like squash, pumpkin, all of those things. In your bleeding phase, which is your menstrual phase that comes right after the luteal phase, when you start to bleed, it's so important that we replenish what we're losing. We are losing a huge amount of iron, of blood, of minerals. We are losing a lot. So you want to focus on, for sure, high protein foods, but you want to focus on high mineral foods. And I highly recommend that you experiment with algae if you like them. Use algae, like sea vegetables. Investigate how you can make, like, maybe you can make a miso soup, maybe you can make a broth with some algae, maybe you can buy those nori sheets and make some rolls at home that can either be with fish or not. It can just be a plant-based roll, it can be a animal protein roll. It's so important that we see it that way. And in the beginning it feels a bit weird, but you naturally want to tend to these foods. If you listen to what you like, you will notice your body gravitating to, like, why am I thinking about, for example, why am I thinking about beets in my menstrual phase? Why am I thinking about that? Because it has all of these aspects that I just mentioned, all of them. And then in the, when you're ovulating, you're like, why am I thinking about a really fresh salad with like some seeds? Because your body literally just wants like a fresh salad with some seeds. In your luteal phase, you're like, oh, I'm really craving like roasted potatoes with maybe salmon or like some broccoli or whatever. Like because like your body's always telling you the type of thing that will nourish you the best. Always. And again, we're just completely disconnected because we want one way of doing things. And we have to celebrate our cyclicity so that we can thrive in all of these aspects of energy, weight, muscle, longevity, fertility. It's all about our cycle. I'm sorry, it's all about our cycle always.
Oh my God, this makes a lot of sense even when I recall just some moments or some months back, the days before my period, I'm just like more like I want to eat a little bit more. And when I used to be in plants, I used to hate it because like, no, I have to save my food or something, right? But and there's were some days that I was forcing myself to eat my plant, to eat even more, and I was like, I don't know why. There's some days that I'm with more hungry, and the other days are just like I don't want to eat. So it's kind of. But now that you explain it really well here, it makes a lot of sense, and it's all based of what our body needs in that specific area and what it's doing inside.
Yes, and let me tell you one more thing. Women, the reason why we have this normalized idea that when we are close to our periods, we have PMS and that we want to eat everything in our cabinets is because we don't allow ourselves to eat a little bit more in each meal. We are,
Oh,
because again,
yeah.
like, I'm going into my luteal phase and I'm like, but I'm still hungry. Why am I still hungry? And my head is like, I'm gonna gain weight if I eat more. But your body's purposely burning almost 300 more calories so that you can eat more so that you can make a baby. That's the goal, is for the uterus to form a lining.
Oh
There's
my
a
God.
lot of calories needed for that. And so the body will be burning what you're eating. So you will never gain weight from eating a little bit more in the luteal phase. And if we know that, we will not stop ourselves from eating. And therefore, the thing that everyone says that happens won't happen, which is I stop myself from eating more because I'm hungry, and then I find myself at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. eating my entire cabinet and feeling guilty because your body will literally do this. You didn't eat enough. I'm gonna about to turn this hormone that is called ghrelin, which makes you want to eat, 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 and you will go straight to the simple carbs. It's as simple as that. It will go straight where the sugar is because your body is like, give me that food. So you will go to the easiest thing to find, which is sugar always.
Maria, I'm telling you, I'm loving you right now, and I think the listeners are gonna love you even more. Thank you for those 300 amazing calories that you're giving. Yeah, because
Yes.
sometimes we feel like, yeah, and those thoughts of like, oh, I'm gonna weight, or my effort of the last 14 days, whatever, is gonna go to waste. But now understanding this, like, yeah, actually, your body's like you mentioned, is preparing room for a baby. Actually, is giving you extra calories to burn if you allow him. And sometimes there, let me tell you, many times we don't know. And for and when we restrict ourselves so much is when, like you mentioned, we bench, we go and go with the cookies or the cereal or things, but we can prevent this. And one of the things that as well, you are now opening my awareness is like, if we are allowing ourselves to do this, just not to try to do it and experience this. Then let's say we want to, whatever in whatever stage uh, they are or I am right now, and when we start implementing these things that you're saying to us, we start noticing the changes, not only in the way that we show up in our business, but the way that we show up in relationships, the way we show up for ourselves and in all areas in our lives. And when we start seeing those changes, we actually it's like everything, when we start seeing that something is working, even we motivate ourselves more to just to do it.
100%. And I think people don't see the impact until they get to the impact, but I will tell you like clear, crispy, clear right now, which is if you start eating cyclically or eating intuitively according to the phases and not restricting yourself from changing as you wish to change, the benefits in your business are very simple. It's no longer brain fog because you don't have like capacity to focus or stay present or stay productive. So you won't get like ups and downs in that, like, oh, I feel so tired. Like I'm awake. I feel so tired. I'm awake. Like that's not going to happen. So productivity will elevate. But also just the idea that you won't get distracted with the thoughts of food all the time because you are fully satisfied. That's not going to distract you. And I have so many clients which their days are constantly being distracted by just thinking about food because they're always restricting themselves in the wrong time. So again, like for example, I'm creating content or something, but I've deprived myself of eating like a full meal because I am following a diet or a rule, and then I'm there and I'm like, I can't stop thinking about food. And then at some point I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna go downstairs and eat something. But end up overeating. I come back here, I feel guilty. I start touching my belly. I start having these feelings like I should go exercise. Like my whole day is ruined because of one little thing that I just didn't do, which is like, let me put like 1/4 of my plate a sweet potato there. And that my whole day shifted because of that. And so there's so many little nuances that can completely shift your relationship in your business, your relationship with yourself. And we can go into exercise right now because also it's a whole conversation to have.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I would love to move right away to exercise because like I I think when you were mentioning about like the thinking about food and thinking about like that, I mentioned to you before, like, and the listeners, that when I used to compete, those were my daily thoughts. I was not thinking
yeah,
about relationships. I was not thinking about the job, and I was there. I think I will say thanks God that I don't know how I was doing it. I was just an autopilot, I will say, but I was thinking about food all day long, all day
yeah,
long. I was
yeah,
like obsessed. And I think many women can relate with this, and that is not normal. I mean, we think like, yeah, it's normal because whatever. It's not normal. It's not something that you have even to have to put in your mind, you know?
yeah. And so, like for example, I do want to say something about. Oops, sorry, I just heard myself. But I want to say something about competing.
Yeah,
And you know, everyone does it for a specific reason, for a specific goal. In your case, it could have been to prove something to yourself. But either way, you have to think about it this way. When you guys compete, there's obviously a lot of training, a lot of self-restricting, a lot of eating barely anything, and very controlled behavior. And you have to think about it. Like even if a guy so when a guy does it, when, for example, you go into your show and the show is over and you're like relief, I can finally eat again something that I really want. The guy has like nothing to recover from. He has a 24-hour clock that resets every day. He has nothing to recover from. He'll have a little bit of recovery hormonally if he needs. You will have months and months and months to now try to balance that level of hormones that were completely shut off. So
yeah,
even within those things, it's like the restriction is just too hardcore for us, and women should never be restricted at any point.
yeah.
Um,
I would
yeah,
love
go
to
ahead.
on that, Maria, and I think you were reading my mind. I went compete 3 years after I put myself on shape. I was competing 3 years nonstop. And one of the things that I did, like, because when you are competing, well, and I'm not suggesting no one to do this. I did have a personal trainer that she's amazing, but I was not following her instructions of like do that cheat meal or like the refeed dates. I was not doing that. And let me tell you, after those three years, I did have to invest 2 years on reverse dieting,
Yeah,
gaining, gaining 25 pounds in the right way, gaining 25 pounds. I lose my period. I was
yeah,
doing things to get my period back. So, and after 2 years, I recovered my period. I gained 25 pounds, but let me tell you, it took me 2 years where I don't suggest anyone if do what your training says, because those 2 years, instead of saying my body seeing it leaner, I was seeing, of course, getting weight. And for me back then, when you're competing, like you have I think I did have like this body. I'm not calling.
dysmorphia.
Yeah, but I will say that I was extra small, and for me right now I'm in a small. For me, it's still like it's huge, and it's not huge. It's not
No,
huge,
yeah,
but in comparison with that, it was a lot. So when we put ourselves on diets and like that, I did that. I will say because I was like, let me see what is possible for me, and I did it. But when we don't are well educated on what we're doing internally to our body is when, like, after all, we see the effects of losing the period, losing my hair, like not at all, right, but it was getting thinner and thinner, and putting myself in a process of 2 year process to get my hormones back, my period back. And it was kind of challenging. So I
yeah,
think that is something that I just want to share here, because when we follow the suggestions or we work with a professional like you, Maria, we can arrive to our goals without sacrificing nothing.
Yes, I love that.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
that is the goal, is to be able to know that we can change the dogma or the paradigm that has to be sacrificed and you can't feel good and you have to do this in order to achieve a goal or whatever. Like it's just so wrong. And for example, even in that world of competing, which is literally the definition of extreme,
Yeah.
even in that world, it doesn't mean that that world can't exist. It just means that if a woman really wants to do that for a specific reason, which they have the right to, all of these guides and regulations of how to get there need to change. They need to change because 2 years of dealing with body dysmorphia, thoughts about yourself, like you are small, you'd still see yourself as like not good enough. You have to like have a huge fight with your period, like it's gonna come, it's not gonna come, and when it comes, it's horrible, and I have all this PMS and up and downs. The process needs to change, and it needs to change everywhere. Even
Yeah.
I think like one of my biggest goals potentially in the future would be to be able to change organizations and corporations about how women create their work in those places, because
Mm.
those places are determined by the 24-hour clock, which is a male clock.
Yeah.
And so there's so much that eventually would, like, we need to change a lot. But right now, whoever is listening to this is the understanding that if you decide to exercise, there's also dynamic changes that are happening in your body week to week. So dynamic changes in metabolism, strength in terms of building muscle. And it's really just about those two, is when am I really building muscle like crazy and when am I really shedding weight? And you tap into that in the right week, which is, by the way, follicular ovulatory phase, is the weeks for those. But then it's understanding that if you would continue behaving the same way after you ovulate and you go into your luteal phase doing the same thing, you are reversing the work that you just put in the 2 weeks before. So you will be losing some muscle and you might most likely potentially could gain some weight or just maintain it. So for you to see consistent results, is there is a time to go hardcore and there is a time to go hard, not hardcore. So in the luteal phase, you still exercise, you're not lazy, you're not pretending that you can't move, you are doing the hard things, but it's types of exercises that don't bring cortisol up, which is your stress hormone. So that would be a really challenging, for example, a really challenging class on Pilates or a really challenging class on yoga. And then you get to decide how good that feels in your body. And I guarantee you, every woman that has worked with me now exercises this way because they feel the best, which is follicular ovulatory. They go hardcore with the cardio, they go hardcore with the muscle, the strength building, and then luteal phase. All of them are in love with yoga, in love with Pilates, and they don't want to do anything but that. But
Mm.
if they tried to do yoga and Pilates the weeks before, they would feel bored because the body wants more than what that can provide
Yeah.
sometimes. I know that there is like some crazy teachers when it comes to the Pilates and yoga session, but we're talking about like more type of still challenging but gentle.
Yeah.
And so again, we have to change the way we think. Like when I first learned about this, I'm like, interesting. So I am over here in the gym being told by someone that I'm not doing enough reps in my luteal phase, but actually this guy doesn't know that I'm losing muscle because he doesn't understand my hormones.
My
And
hormones.
so a person needs to know this so they can also put boundaries with their trainer and make them understand that they have a lot to learn when it comes to women's body and it does not work the same way or the same protocol that the other guy males do. And that is okay because we are different. We have to celebrate that. We are
Oh,
capable of something. It's just like the idea that we have to be the same became really problematic now when we are all facing the problem. It's like, again, the boss babe era. Now people want the soft girl era for a reason. We are exhausted, burnout, autoimmune disease to the roof. People are
yeah.
like, I'm done with this. I'm ready for the soft girl era. And that means just like following your intuition, being more gentle, not always having to go hardcore, 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 because that's not who you are. You are all of it at the same time. A woman is all of it in 28 days. If she is hardcore, she is soft, she is masculine, she is feminine, and we just have to learn about that balance. to really get in there.
I really love this so much. And I think you with this, even with this part of the conversation, you're gonna liberate so many women that we hire someone and we feel like we're lazy some days, or we don't push ourselves, or we have to have the pre-workout or the whatever shit caffeine that we only damaging ourselves in order to push to the workout, and we have to push and it has to be hard. And this is magical. This is life changing, Maria. I'm telling you,
It
like,
is.
damn it. Like, where
Like,
where you were 5 years ago. Just
but like, I don't want to be dramatic, but the word life changing is correct in this
fucking
situation.
life.
It is life changing for everyone. It's life changing, life changing, life changing, because our entire lives, and I speak for myself, like I go through the same journey. We are always against ourselves,
Yeah.
always. And I don't hear my male partner, I don't hear my male friends have these conversations. Yes, they can have issues. Yes, they can have like whatever, but they don't do it in the extent that we do it. And women legitimately, like, we're constantly stabbing ourselves in the back because we lack information. But again, information is here, is
Mm,
here, is here, is here. And women immediately accept this because once they tap into it, they know. The body's like,
yeah.
amen, girl. Like, you finally got here. We just wanted this like 10 years ago. You feel
Yeah.
it. You feel it. It's
Yeah.
magical, like you said.
Yeah, and it feels so right. And then, like, I was expressing this, I remember the other podcast as well, but you explain it in a way that feels so right, simple, that you're
Yeah.
not using 20,000 complicated like things that I don't even understand how. The way that you deliver this is just amazing, amazing, Maria. And I have to highlight it again because you put it in a way that every one of us, without even like having understand about medicine or something, we can resonate and we can feel it. That is feels so fucking right. And
Yes.
I want to say thank you for this. Quick
So
question.
welcome.
We went up to the follicular, the ovular, and the next one, I don't know how I can pronounce it. Luteal.
Yes, luteal. So Luteal. Luteal. Luteal.
So
Luteal
that
phase,
one is
yes.
more like yoga, Pilates. And
Yeah.
you recommend for when we are bleeding? You recommend like
Okay.
what it will be for you, the recommendation there?
So I might have a different approach than other people,
Yeah,
but it's because of my. So here's the thing. When
yeah,
it comes to information, don't trust people or see, like, listen to it with a grain of salt that haven't observed people enough in the way of doing something and have only followed protocols.
yeah.
Protocols mean rigidity. So you have to understand that some things will work for some will work for others. So I know women that they will follow the basic rule, which is in your menstrual phase when you're bleeding for those 4 days, rest, nap,
Mm,
sleep, go to the park, read a book. That is your exercise. For other women, it can work like this, which is my case. But I feel like it really depends on
so,
how long you've been doing this. Because the more regulated you are, the easier it is to just feel really great with your body. So how it works for me, it is first 2 days that I'm bleeding, which are the heaviest, I do that. I take a break, I take a breather, I go gardening, for example, I go for a walk. Again, you're moving, but you can also just relax. After that, I'm still bleeding the third and fourth day, but I start feeling like I can exercise. And so I personally really enjoy it. But what do I do? Pilates or yoga, because my energy is still on the lower side. Remember that when you're bleeding, all of your hormones are kaput. They're gone. Nothing is there to provide you with energy. It's just natural not to have it. When I say energy is like really like, I can go exercise, like that's the type of thing that I'm talking about.
that's true. Yeah,
So I recommend it that way. Test it out for yourself and listen, because for me, it's really easy to know when to change to what now without looking at what day I'm in on my phone. Before I was like, okay, what day am I in? What does make sense for me today? Let me see if my body likes it. Right now is like this. Like, it's super easy because, like, listen, my
yeah,
body's just so good at telling me what I like or not. So let's say that I'm ovulating, right? I'm ovulating. I'm pushing. I'm like, I'm doing the craziest weight routines that I have. I'm like, this feels amazing. This was amazing. I love the pain. I love the pain in my body. And I do that, and now I'm noticing like, okay, I'm on day 1 of the luteal phase, day 2 of the luteal phase. Like I'm still enjoying the pain. I'm still enjoying the pain. On day 3 or 4, it's always the same. On day 3 or 4 of my luteal phase, my body is like, absolutely not. You better change what you're doing because we don't enjoy. And it's so clear to me. I'm like, oh, not today. Let me go do my Pilates that I have here on my computer. It's so simple. For me, it's like this. But it took me a while to get here. Before I was mostly just looking at my app. What day am I in? Why does this not feel good to me right now? Oh, I'm on the luteal phase. Let me change things up, So
That feels so right. Yeah. And if like, let me tell you, like the other day, I'm making so fucking huge notes here. Like, I'm telling you, all the women that listen to this, you have to listen more than once, at least 3 times, because you have
yeah.
all the notes. And I, like I said again, and I remark it a lot on the other podcast, Maria. Uh, you really represent what we really want to see, and not only online but like in everywhere, like, because you're representing the professional, the woman that knows her shit, and could do it the way that you deliver is such a gift. I just love it. I just wanted to remark that again, like, you're a fucking gift. I'm just telling you, like, even for me right now, it's like, I'm changing things around, and now, like, and I'm just gonna apply this thing, like, this is so
Yes.
huge, I'm telling you.
It is. And you feel like finally the inner child, it's like thanking you for listening, or like it's almost an endearing feeling of like you feel like
Yeah.
you're being hugged by yourself, even though you're not physically doing the movements. But it feels like that. Making choices based on your cycle feels like a constant validation and reassurance of you who you are. And everyone else on outside of the store is always doing the opposite for me. They're putting me down. They're not validating that I am different in this phase. They're always saying that it's an excuse. It's an excuse. So it's like so easy to fall back on what we know, which is the masculine society, which
That's
does not work for you. And so every time you choose to be cyclical, you are validating who you are, and you are feeling peace, and you're feeling accepted by yourself. And ultimately, that's the biggest healing for everything, even for disease, is to fully love yourself and embrace and all of that. But anyway, this is a complete different conversation, but it's just the goal. And being cyclical is part of you getting there.
Yeah, and I was mentioning this as well in the other podcast. There's so many things that we don't even I was not even aware of how this, when you um synchronize this with your cycle, your business, your fitness, even the exercises, how life
Yeah.
changer can be. Like, and it feels really like, even seeing this, like, oh, I'm just gonna do this like weights, and then I'm gonna do yoga, I'm gonna do something later. It feels like you said, like a permission to sleep. Like, oh god, it feels just, even I don't even, I haven't done this like right now, but it feels like it feels like a relief in the body. It feels like a, you can feel that it's true for you.
Yes,
Yes.
honestly. It's so, I think a person can imagine the feeling. And so just do your best of imagine like what would it feel like for me to just always love what I'm doing all the time? What would that feel like in my body? Like what is my body telling me? And like for me, it's like an immediate relief. It's almost like butterflies in my stomach. And like, yes, I want to feel like that every day. So what is my first step?
Yeah, and all the other benefits that you mentioned, like no more like lack of focus, or feeling like you need 20,000 coffees. At one point I was like, coffees, or with the I don't know how they call it, but, and we're not energy drinks, but we're like uh
Yeah.
Gatorade, but like
Yeah.
a low calorie, but it's still caffeine in there. And I was like, I cannot do it anymore. Like, it's a lot. Like, and I was with insomnia and all those things. And I think when we are becoming more mindful in making those changes, and of course, if we want something more personalized, we go with you, Maria. Is when we can actually experience the feeling good. Like, even if you're mentioning right now, sometimes we're so accustomed just to feel good several days, not all the month. right? What it will be for us to feel good, to thrive in the business, to thrive in our food, to no longer feel like we're restricting ourselves or craving some things, or giving ourselves permission just one day or two of the month, or killing ourselves on the gym, or simple not doing nothing because we don't feel like it. So there's so many components.
I know, so many. I always remind myself, you are listening to people who have never done studies on your body. You are listening to rules that have never been done on your body. You are listening to everything that does not fit you, and yet you take it in as if
Yeah.
it's yours. Like, it's not mine, has never been tested on me. And I must, for me to get my own protocol, is really just like an inner feeling and an inner intuition and inner knowing that, like, right now I don't want to do this exercise routine, thank you very much, I'm going to choose my own. And you choose your own, and just that is a completely shift in directions of you respecting yourself. So in this in this pattern of like actually changing the static ways to cyclical ways, we are breaking patterns that we have from so many generations ago of, we know, like, of putting us down low, like not having respect towards our bodies or who we are. And so it's also an empowering movement, and it's very much so different from the empowering movement that we call that, like, men and women have to be the same
Yeah.
and wanting to be exactly the same. That's not empowering, that is degrading towards you, because you're not them. Like, you are cyclical, they are static. So it's like becoming cyclical is empowering, and that is what brings you closer to doing whatever that you want without resistance.
Yes. And I do have a question as well. Now that we're talking about like the exercises and the food, do you and your protocols, and I know I'm here a little bit general, do you recommend any kind of supplements like vitamins or something external?
Yes, and that will always, always, always depend on the person. That's why I never recommend anything. You will
Capsules.
not see me recommending any supplement to anyone randomly unless I know your history, I know your patterns, I know your symptoms. Your symptoms can tell me deficiencies. The one supplement that I always tell people to take, because we just change our lifestyles completely, is vitamin D. That
Vitamin.
one is a non-negotiable. Everyone needs to be on vitamin D. Like, otherwise they're extremely deficient, and then nothing works. The immune system doesn't work well. The hormones don't work well. Nothing works well without vitamin D. So for sure, be on a supplement for that. On the summer, you can pause it if you're exposing yourself to the sun daily for like at least 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. If you're constantly doing that during the summer, and you know that most of the body's getting exposed, you can probably pause that. But if you're not, you really need to get in.
Love it. And I love the fact that you are really professional, that you said, you know what, that is more personalized depending on the individual. Like I really respect
Yeah. And you know, like, the supplements, when given to the wrong person, can do more harm than good.
that.
Or you're just wasting money for absolutely no reason. You know what I mean? So it should be a person, you have to listen to a lot before you make decisions on what supplement makes sense for a person.
Yeah. Another quick question. When it comes to and I know we mentioned about the exercises like more like cardio or like weight training, and then yoga or Pilates or more low impact, but you're still challenging yourself. When it comes, let's say someone of our listeners is like, well, I'm in a, let's say in the part of my journey that I'm putting myself back on shape. So in order to have just like, or to have a professional that it can work on her or his workout planning or whatever, do you think, or how do you approach this? Just communicate directly with the trainer and tell him, hey, I'm working this way, do something that fits me or whatever.
Yeah, like, all of my clients have trainers, all of them,
Yeah.
and I literally guide them into what to say to them. And a lot of the times it's something like this: I am learning how my cycle influences me in the
Mm.
gym, like with building muscle and losing weight. And I know that this is what it works for me in terms of types of exercises. So, trainer, I would like you to create a schedule that is based on like that is based on cardio and strength training in the first 2 weeks, and then it's based on softer types
Okay.
of movements that lead to more flexibility, blah blah blah. He is the trainer. He can come up for stuff. You don't have to come up with anything. He needs to know, okay, what types of exercises they induce, like bring flexibility and less cardiovascular type of thing. And then he creates something for you, and you will experiment, and you will tell him like, this perfectly fits my body. I really feel like I'm really getting into this routine. Love it. And if you find resistance, you still tell him like, I think we have to change things still in the luteal phase. I think it's still going too hard. And maybe let's just tone it down, maybe with the amount of reps that we're doing, or like lower the weight to just maintain what we did the 2 last weeks and not lose anything. And it's really like, if and the trainer, if he's good enough, he will accept it immediately, embrace
You
it,
know
take it in,
that.
like, thank you for teaching me. I love that you're teaching me things. All trainers should want to learn from their clients always.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this. And I love you more, Maria, because just like this arrived, even for me right now, like I'm making some bigger changes. Like this has arrived as a gift. And I'm telling you, a priceless gift. Like you have opened my mind. And like I told you, I've been in fitness for years, but now you are like I was mentioning this to another a lady. It's like I feel like a mind. Excuse my language here. A mind fuck. Like you're like
And I
yeah.
think,
This is what's fucking huge because this is aside of giving me permission just to like change it all. It's like if and the body feels like a relief, and it's just oh God, I'm really grateful for this. And I know
yes,
many of the listeners, I want to say, Maria, where can I hire you? Maria, where can I contact you? Because
literally just go into my Instagram, send me a DM. Like, I would love to know how you can help me. And then I could just I continue talking to you there and find the best way to support you.
oh my gosh, I love it. By the way, before we wrap up, if you can remind us where we can find you, you mentioned Instagram, but what it will be the protocol? Let's say someone in the on the audience, like maybe she already listened part one, now she's listening part two, and she said, "Oh fuck, I would love to have Maria's eyes on my case. I would love to have more, of course, depending about her goals, but I would love to have more like guidance when it comes to supplements, when it comes to things that are more personalized that we didn't mention here. What it will be the first step? And I think we mentioned that in the first episode, but I would love to refresh it here for the listeners here as well.
Yeah. So again, it's just, I think the easiest way is to find me on Instagram, which is at Dr. Maria Tedim, just like you see here. And then you just send me a DM saying exactly that. Like, I saw you on Graciela's podcast. I would love to have a conversation with you. And I always have a free 45-minute call with anyone that wants to work with me. Either they continue or not, they have the same amount of knowledge bombs dropped at the call, which can guide them by themselves, or they might really just want support with me. And so that's the best way. And if you don't have Instagram, you can find me on Facebook just under my name, Maria Tedim. Send me a message there. Otherwise, I can we can put my email in the show notes. I don't know,
Yeah,
whatever you allow. Yeah.
yeah, we can put that as well. Yeah, of course.
Perfect. Yeah. And just send me a message. Really, like, I am the most easy to approach type of person. Again, this is very much the feminine working. I want it to be this way. You don't have to go through anyone. It's always with me. I'm the most connected to my clients always. Send me a message when we get to talk. And if it works, works. If it doesn't, you still get a lot of things from that call.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Maria. This was, like I said, even if like you mentioned that in the other podcast as well, like that you offer those connection calls, so, discovery calls. And I think that is really amazing. Because what we, I don't want to put the word craving, but what we like is connection, is
Yes.
feeling that someone cares. And of course, if we want to help clients, we want them to join us. But when we feel this natural connection, is inevitable just to say, hey, how we can work together, or what is the next move? Because you feel that, first of all, the woman is embodying her life work that you actually do. Like I cannot emphasize enough. And the other podcast, I don't know how many times I mentioned, like you making medicine, you making this so fun, so approachable, so like no boring, no like, oh my God, like I'm gonna do 20,000 things. You making this really beautiful, and it's just I just want to say thank you again. Like this was such
Yeah.
pleasure. And this conversation, ladies, if you listen to this conversation, go back and listen at least twice because you have so many notes. I make so many notes here on my notebook. Like this was packed.
Yes. And women need a safe place to be listened to, and like, especially in healthcare,
Yeah.
like everyone I talk to has been dismissed over and over and over. And it's just not now. It's been like centuries like this. And like finally people open the doors for them to feel like you're safe here. Like there's no judgment. Whatever you say is fine. Whatever you say is right, is your experience. I'm not denying anything that you're saying. I'm never ever taking that away from you. I just want to support you. And this is why I have that call, because I wished I was that someone did that for me when I was 16 years old. Like I really did. I would die for a call like this.
Thank you so much, Maria. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Yay, thank you for having me.
So welcome for all the listeners. We wanna and the other. This is part two. If you're listening part two, go and listen part one. If you already listened part one, this is the thing. Go back many times as possible. Take those notes. Maria
Yeah.
is not only an expert, but as you may know, as you may feel, if you're only listening to this, she knows what she's talking about, and the way that she's playing it. Let me tell you, there's not another woman like her. But with that being said, have an all beautiful day and we'll see you next week.
Yay.